Lupton joins us on set now to take us through French front pages. Good morning to you.
Hi, Hella.
We're going to start off with top story for Libération this morning. This is the President's decision to extend the state of emergency that France is currently living under. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so on their front page, they go with 3 words. It's not quite 3 words, a few more than that, but it's état d'urgence, égalité, and fraternité. Now, that, of course, is a play on the famous French motto, liberté, égalité, fraternité, which means liberty, equality, and fraternity. They've replaced the word liberty with state of emergency, and that's because, according to Libération, they say the state of emergency that's been going on in France, the ongoing state of emergency, is eroding French freedoms, which are highly prized here. Now, the state of emergency has been in place since the Paris attacks on the 13th of November, in which 130 people were killed. It was due to expire tomorrow, but François Hollande has made the decision to extend it for another 3 months until the end of May. Now, Libération says the exception is becoming the rule, and France is now going to start living under this new rule until the end of May. It asks, why stop there, rather sarcastically? We can look ahead and we see that football's European Championships are going to be in France in June. It's going to be quite difficult for the French government to decide to lift this state of emergency and to return to business as usual right before this kind of security-fraught event. Now, Libération goes on to say that the decision to extend the state of emergency is driven more by politics than by issues of security. It quotes the Prime Minister, Manuel Valls, wondering if an attack happened a fortnight after we lifted the state of emergency, can you imagine how much we'd be blamed? Later in the paper, so another article in that paper, it interviews an intelligence agent who says that actually the state of emergency does very little to actually stop an attack. The Charlie Hebdo and the 13th of November attacks were organised from outside of France, so from Belgium. Now, no amount of police raids in France are going to be able to stop those.
Well, this is something that the Interior Minister is meant to voice today, isn't it, at a meeting in Amsterdam with his European counterparts.
Yes, and according to Le Figaro, there's going to be a lot of fist thumping on the table from Bernard Cazeneuve in Amsterdam at that meeting of the EU Interior Ministers. Why? Well, because he still hasn't got those strengthened EU European borders that he wants and he's been asking for months. The Schengen area remains a sieve, says the paper. That's the headline there, un passoire. It's essentially for Cazeneuve, what he wants is stronger border controls, a stronger Frontex, which is the sea agency, and he also wants digital fingerprints of all migrants and refugees to be taken at Europe's external borders.
Okay, well, security playing a big part in the French papers today, but it's not just European security, is it? There's also the heightened security across in India, given the President's state visit.
Yes, so Hollande is visiting India in a situation of increased security, which has been stepped up as the terrorist threat in that country has increased over the last few days. Now, a few days ago, the French consulate in Bangalore, down in the south of India, received death threats aimed at François Hollande, apparently sent by Al-Qaeda. Taking no chances, they've decided to have 6,000 police officers and 1,200 soldiers mobilised for François Hollande's visit.
While he's in India, tensions back home have been rising as well.
Yes, they have. And that on L'Opinion, so a pro-business paper here, summed up neatly by this cartoon that we see there. We have Hollande with Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, going over to pray to the Hindu god Ganesh. And he asks Modi, this is the god who solves blockages and conflicts, right? Now, of course, that is because la colère monte, according to the paper. So this is tempers are fraying in France. Public sector workers, especially teachers, are going to be going on strike tomorrow. Now, the strike's likely to have more support than normal, says L'Opinion, because teachers are angry about the government's school reforms. The civil service are concerned about the fusion of different regions in France. Taxi drivers are angry about companies like Uber taking their competition, and air traffic controllers want reassurance that they are not going to have their budgets, their bonuses rather, slashed. So you've got a hot pot there of people wanting to come out in the streets and protest tomorrow.
Nobody's happy, it seems. What a change that is. There's also concerns, bells or not, over this precious 35-hour working week that French are particularly famous for.
Yeah, so there's a new code of work that's got the front pages of business paper Les Echos. And then inside the paper, there's an article saying that in his speech at Davos, the economy minister, Emmanuel Macron, suggested that he would reopen the debate about the possible relaxation of the 35-hour working week, something that's very, very sacred to French people. But in Le Monde, Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo is quoted and essentially writes herself that the debate is so 20th century. For her, it's been put to bed. The 35-hour week is something we discussed last century. We don't need to be discussing it again.
Well, it's Anne Hidalgo's 2 cents there. Finally, quick look ahead to next year's presidential elections.
Yeah, so will he, won't he? We've had a lot on Sarkozy. Will he put himself forward? Will he not? Well, he's got a book published and that's out today.
Another one.
And in Le Figaro, he appears to say that his candidature is not as certain as the media might have been making it out to be. So he's kind of remaining on the fence. He uses a lot of quite vague language. Whether you believe him or not is another question. In Le Figaro again, Hollande, people close to Hollande, are quoted as saying that the president will not stand for re-election unless he feels in a very strong and solid position to do so, unless he feels he's really succeeded in his goals. Now, of course, one of the most important ones in that is unemployment, which he promised to lower. Unless he sees it lower by the end of this year, he will not stand. However, you've got more people, according to Le Figaro, who are close to him, saying that the president thinks day and night only of the elections next year.
Well, that sounds pretty standard for a politician. It's interesting, though, no one wanting to put themselves forward in the public eye, but very much so the bartering behind the scenes. We're going to have more of the book's released today. The Sarkozy book is released today.
It is, and he's done a sit-down interview with French television in which he talks about it. You know, again, classic politician, not saying I will absolutely come forward, but neither denying it. So it's the timing of all these things.
Dipping a toe in the water to see what public opinion will say. Well, we'll have more on that book in the next half hour of Live from Paris. For now, though, thank you very much, Belle Lupton. More from Belle later this morning.